AG, and this is a video I've tried doing like twice, but I had to redo it because I just wasn't feeling the way I did it before. Either way, I wanted to talk about Breath of the Wild. I'm using the reversible cover to it because I really like reversible covers. People don't usually show off the reversible covers like the one for Bioshock Infinite. What was the other one? Either way, I can't really remember. Trying to make this one kind of fast because I'm going to something later today. Because today's Labor Day, and I'm gonna try to upload this just before I head out. So I'm gonna try to kind of do this, but there's a lot to go over with Breath of the Wild. If you're not too certain how I rate things, I have a scale of, instead of 1 to 10, I have what is normally known as the grading system. I instead, like the school grading system, instead I work off the Olympic system, which is bronze, silver, gold. When things are really bad, they're stone, and when they're really good, they're platinum. So that's usually how I go about doing this, but I kind of wanted to... Sorry, I was eating something right before this. Probably should have washed up first, but oh well, I'll just go with it. So Breath of the Wild is the latest game in the Legend of Zelda series, and a lot of people were really looking forward to this game because it was shown off on the WiiU, and it's like, oh, this is probably going to be the best looking one. Oh, what's going on? This looks so out of the norm for the game. And then we didn't really get a release for it. It kind of just stayed in the background for a lot of the time, and it got to the point where people were worried that this game would never come out. One second. My nose. So the game was routinely delayed and, like, not really talked about, and then the Switch was rumored to come out, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming for the Switch as well. And it was a launch title. And a lot of people had problems with how far it was delayed and how they kind of teased that it was coming out next year, so you should buy a Wii U, when they kind of knew that the system was about to die because no one was really getting it. But when I first saw it, it was pretty good, and I didn't really know how to feel about it because I don't want to say that it's the first open world Zelda game. I'm gonna say that it's the first game in which they don't really, like, railroad you through the plot, where it's like, you have to go to this area, then this area, then this area, then back to the first area, do a second one, back to the second area, back to the third area, and then go to the final one. Kind of like what happens with Skyward Sword or a few other ones, in which the game's kind of, I don't want to say linear while in open world, but it really does feel like the game is driving you towards that. The only other game that has this sort of open world mentality is the original ones on the NES, because there were times in which you could do dungeons out of order, you could roam around for a while, and even in Zelda 2, the one that people kind of don't really like because it's more of a side-scroller, there's this air of you're in charge of your own destiny, almost. There's a sort of, the combat was really interesting, and I think it's what a lot of people took from the game, was it tried to do things, but it just kind of failed. Either way, you have this situation where a new Zelda game comes out, and a lot of people instantly start saying, "Oh, this is like the first Zelda game," and I gotta agree, it is kind of like the first Zelda game. But let's kind of get into the beginning of the game. The game cold opens, so you like load up you put in the cartridge, and you start it up, and the first thing you see is the title card into the game. There is no menu at this point, and it's basically just like, okay, you wake up, and it's like, well, that's the Zelda trope, but it's like you don't really know where you are. You're on this large raised plateau, and you're being guided around by like a voice in your head. And this little tablet that you got that suspiciously looks like a Switch, even though it was kind of designed to look like a Wii U tablet. It still kind of looks like a Switch. Um, but you're kind of just like going around with this, like exploring this plateau. Um, you meet like this old man, and he's like, okay, so uh, there's only one real way off of the plateau, and that's using my paraglider. To get it, you have to get these treasures. Um, so let's talk about. So there's three things that you are. There are three things that become immediately clearing while you're on the plateau. One, this is the tutorial area. Two, the game is not telling you which order to go to these shrines and get these treasures for him at. And three, each of these shrines give you a different ability. So let's talk about shrines and abilities. Shrines are small puzzles that are kind of, I don't want to say is, um, it feels a little, cliched to talk about it because so many people have reviewed this already, but but they really do feel like mini dungeons. They are designed to. Sorry, my nose. The game gives you these dungeons to run around in, do things, but these but they're mostly puzzles. And you go through, you complete the puzzle, maybe like a set of like three, with three individual puzzles using your Sheikah abilities. These ones these are what what is a replacement for your magical stuff that is normally in other games. So it's like, oh, you no longer get the fire rod. The fire rod's now like a weapon that you could just find. And we'll talk about weapons in a bit, but I kind of wanted to talk about the shrines for a little second. These little puzzle boxes are scattered around all over the place, and you could go to them at like different times. And usually, but not always, they rely on your abilities that you get. The abilities are magnetism, remote bombs, chronostasis, and cryostasis, with cryo being ice and chronostasis being time. Stasis meaning stop or control. I forget what the actual definition of it is, but it's like, okay, I control magnets, I control metal items, I control ice, and I control items to just stop in time. And then you have the bombs, which are natural, but all of these sort of flow together to be used in puzzles. A lot of the time, you'll come across shrines that you're just like, how do I do this? And then you like realize, oh, I'm supposed to use this ability. Because there are some times in which you don't actually use the abilities, except for like one or two times. But what you get out of them are these little orbs. These orbs can be taken to statues that are the statues of the goddess who are scattered around, usually inside cities. And when you give 4 of them, you can increase your health, or you could increase your stamina. Um, unlike pieces of heart, um, unlike pieces of heart in which you it is kind of like that. It's like you get 4, and then you get then you get an extra heart. But you could also get a piece of your stamina wheel, which is really helpful, especially if you're the type of person that likes to climb up walls, or you like using heavier attacks, or charge, or you're trying to hold your breath for the bow. Now let's kind of go into combat, because you do get into a little bit of fights while you're still on this plateau, but there is something different about this. For one, you have a jump button. This is kind of new to Zelda, apparently. I'm not really... I'm pretty sure that it's brand new, at least in some regard, but in ways, it kind of makes sense. You're trying to go through this place, and not even the mountains can stop you to get to where you need to go. So you have an enemy, and they're holding up their shield, and they're holding up their weapon. You have several things you can do. One, you can put up your own shield and you can block their attacks. You can just start hitting them with a two-handed heavy weapon to kind of either knock the shield out of their hand or knock them down. Or you could wait for their attack, and you could do 2 things. One, you could parry it, and it gives them a moment of stun, so you can start putting some attacks into them, or you can actively jump out of the way of their attack, and if you jump at the proper timing, time will slow down a little bit, and then you can get a bunch of free attacks. Same thing with the bow. If you are in the air and you draw your bow, time will kind of slow down so you can put precise hits into things. The best way to do this is if you're riding a horse, you can hit the jump button, and you'll jump out, and then you could pull up your bow, and then you could put like 3 hits into an enemy, or like something that you're trying to hunt, and just get their stuff. Sorry, I keep bumping into my table. I'm gonna move slightly. And all that's kind of well and good, but I was like, that's basically as far as I can say without spoiling the game. And I know it sounds a little weird to say, like, hey, I'm not going to spoil the game because it's been out for over a year, and it even got like Game of the Year. So like most people have played it and most people know. But I just want to say, like, well, this is as far as I want to go before I actually get into spoilers. But if you want like a concise, if you want me to tell you a concise like answer to is this game good or not, I'm gonna give my review now. For those who don't want. So basically, everything after you get everything up to you getting the paraglider is I basically just mentioned, but everything afterwards I don't want to spoil. Because there's a lot of story to go over, but in my grading system, I would give it a platinum, but I'm sorry, I don't want to give it a platinum, but because it is kind of the first game I'm reviewing like this, so I'm going to give it a gold, and instead, at the end of the year, when I have reviewed several other games, I'll try to give my platinum and my stone then, but I don't think I'll be reviewing too many stone games. I don't usually play games that I don't like, unless the game really irks me in certain ways and I have to talk about it. There were a few games like that last year, and there might be one this year. kind of irks me, but I probably won't play them enough to talk about them, you know? So I gotta get this game a gold, and everything after this point will be spoilers. So let's actually talk about the main quest in this game. So you get all 4 pieces. You go to the Temple of Time that's on the plateau, and you're told by the old guy, okay, so this is the deal. I want you to go to the castle that currently has Ganon in it and save Princess Zelda. Here's the paraglider. I'm off, as he like floats away as a spirit. But at that point in the game, they give you a choice. They give you 2 quests, and both are labeled as main missions. One is to defeat Ganon, and one is to talk to Impa about what the bigger story is. At this point of the game, you could literally just finish the game now. If you really want to, you could stock up on brooms and rusty swords, run into the castle, climb around certain areas, don't really get caught, go up to Ganon, and defeat him now. The problem with that is that the second you start setting foot into the area, even around the castle, you start realizing that you are woefully unequipped. And I think that was the point. Is, let's just say you go to the castle. You go there, and you see all these guardians going around, the spider-legged creatures, and these creatures are going to just go after you. It doesn't matter if there's already someone after you. There'll be like 3 on your tail, all trying to shoot their laser beams at you, and so you're like, nah, I think I'm gonna do this later. So you then go to the local shrine. And the local, sorry, not local shrine, the stable that is in the area. And you're basically told by one of the NPCs there, because you should always talk to NPCs, especially Cass, he's really great. It may just be me biased because I like birds, but I kind of like Cass as a character. But this NPC basically tells you there are 3 ways up the side. 1, you could go in you could go in guns blazing with like really big defenses and really good armor and weapons and just brute force through the front door. 2, there is a series of waterfalls going up the side of the sorry dog, going up the side of the castle, and you would need some way to scale it like a Zora. They attribute the going into the front door like a Goron, and if you're or you could scale right up the cliff face, and almost like you're I forget the way that they mention it, but it's like you're catching the wind like a Rito, and you're sitting there, you're like, okay. But they basically tell you good ways to go up there. There's no way you're going to be climbing that thing by yourself without any stamina. So you're going to want to go to shrines to do that. To go into the front door, you're going to need good armor. And to get good armor, you have to go to the towns. These towns usually have really good armor, really they never have weapons on sale. Like, very rarely do they ever have, like, anything, like, offensive you can even use, and sometimes it's just arrows. But when you're going through the main quest, you will oftentimes run across these towns. So, let's just say that you're going to Impa in Kakariko Village. So, you go all the way over there. Maybe you've picked up a horse along the way because Epona is like a special offer thing through Amiibo that you can get. But if you want to get like a low quality horse, you can do what I did and get like a blue and white speckled horse that's just like, okay, sure, you're my owner now. I'll let you ride me. I named it Cow. and me and Cal traveled across all of Skyrim together, and that was kind of neat. Cal, I can't remember if Cal died at one point, but there are ways to get Cal's back, and I'll explain that later. But when it comes down to it, you'll need horses to traverse long areas unless you're the type of person that more or less just scales up mountainsides. And it makes horses kind of irrelevant. But you go to Impa. Impa basically tells you, okay, so there were these 4 divine beasts that are all being controlled by former members of the champions that you used to be part of before you were injured and put into sleep for 100 years. So, you gotta go to each one of them, free their spirits, get their blessings, and they will help you with the final boss. And you're like, okay, now I've made my final boss experience a little bit better, because now I know something, and I could go out there and try to do it. At around this point in the game, I was severely hooked on just traveling around and doing everything. But there are, and I don't think I'm going to go piece by piece, but at least I'm going to talk about each divine beast in its own right. But I kind of want to talk about side quests. This is one of the I don't want to say one of the only Zelda games that have side quests, because Majora's Mask's entire premise is doing side quests. But there were different side quests to find different things, get different bonuses. But the biggest thing is collectibles. And in this game, you could find these little Korok seeds. And even when you're traversing through the Great Plateau, it's almost impossible not to run into at least one of them. Like, even accidentally, where you're like, huh. I was like, I was recently watching someone, like, the other day, and he fell off, like, a platform, landed into a ring of lilies, and they're like, oh yeah, here's a Korok seed. And he's like, oh, okay. And it's just so funny to, like, see him go, like, I wasn't even trying to find a Korok seed and I found it. There's other ones like balloons that you have to pop with precise arrow shots. Little statues that when you break them, they come out. One of my favorite ones, which is you find a row of 3 trees, and they want you to knock down apples so that each one of them has the exact same amount of apples in each one. Or at least you have to take the one that has the most apples and remove them to look like the other ones. And it was like, this one you could easily mess up if you don't know what you're supposed to do. Because you're like, oh, I'm going to knock down all the apples. And it's like, oh, nothing happened. Because you knocked down one of the ones you didn't need to knock down at all. And it's like, oh, no. And then there's, like, other puzzles you can do. There's the one where it's like, put this fruit into this bowl. And it's like, there were some times where it's like, take this rock and put it into this hole, or even like there's like a sparkly thing going in a circle or in a pattern, and you have to run and grab it, and then they give you the Korok seed. All of these kind of come together to give you like a massive horde of Korok seeds for what you need for it. You do it so you could increase your inventory for holding items. So let's just talk about weapons and armor. When you are traveling through and you defeat an enemy with, like, let's just say you have a stick, and you reach over and you grab like the little wooden clubs that they sometimes have, and you walk over to another one, you beat them up, and it's like, okay, now I'm like getting more of these clubs, and then you're replacing the weaker clubs with like sturdy metal stuff, and then replacing the sturdy metal stuff with like honed soldier blades or like legendary legendary roll guard stuff later on to the game. And it's like it slowly increases the attack power and the durability of weapons for you to use later. And there's like there was three types. There are one-handed weapons, there are two-handed weapons, and then there's spears. And spears are really fast, but do weaker damage, and they're usually used to like do a flurry of hits to like knock a shield out of the way. Whereas the big ones are really powerful, but they take a long wind-up time to hit, and they're really good at knocking enemies off their feet. And then you have the one-handed weapons in which you could utilize the sword and shield strategy like older games, and like kind of like parry them and then hit them really fast. You can still pull out your shield with the other two, but since both of your hands are occupied, it's really hard to switch the shield to like parry or like block an incoming attack. So if you really want to use the shield, you might as well use the one-handed weapon, which shields themselves can get upgraded. And then you have bows. All of those, all three of those, have their own slot in the inventory, and each one of those can be increased by using Korok seeds and giving it to a massive Korok called Hestu. Hestu has this magical dance he does by giving him Korok seeds and putting them into his maracas. It makes him happy because he's trying to fill them back up. And so he's like, okay, I'll do this dance, I'll increase one of your inventory slots. And you're going through the game, and sometimes you will, and there are a lot of times in which I have run out of inventory space. But here is where it gets interesting. Weapon durability. And all weapons, shields, and bows have durability. The reason for this is so that weaker items have less durability. Stronger items have more durability. So it's more like the further you get into the game, the more durable weapons are, and the more you're going to be doing damage, but you're going to just have so few inventory spaces for them that you sometimes forget that weapons can break. There have been times in which I was running around and I ran out of an item, so I had like a slot open. And I defeated an enemy, I picked up their low-level item, I whacked an enemy a few times and it instantly broke, and I'm like, oh yeah! It was like, these things are really weak, as I'm running around with a Royal Knight, a Royal Knight sword and Royal Knight shield, and I was like blocking everything and doing a bunch of hits and just not worrying about it. And so, like, when the game first came out, people was really critical about the durability. It's a fair assessment because it's the first time that that's really been in a Zelda game, but I don't really see it. Like, it was, I don't want to say it gives value to items, but the stronger an item was, the more durability it had. So there were times in which I'm just like, I have these 3 wooden clubs. Oh, a soldier's broadsword. This is going to be really good. Drop one of these wooden clubs to pick up that one. Put it at the end of my list and start using the less valuable ones and keeping the ones with more damage for times in which I really need it. There were times in which I was running around with like 3 Royal Knight great swords, not using them because I was waiting for me to get into battles with really big monsters and mini bosses to take them out. And I'm just like, I don't see the problem with it. If anything, I kind of like it. Again, I don't want to go into the whole it gives value to items, but it kind of does. But that's really a dumb argument to make. Either way, items break, and you will oftentimes just leave a bunch of just wooden clubs on the ground because you don't need them because they're doing like somewhere between like 5 to 12 damage, and you're like, no thanks, I've got really sturdy steel items, I don't need them. So it's almost like the weapon durability is literally there to give you a reason to look out for other items. And eventually, you find the Master Sword, which technically can't break. It runs out of energy and it needs to be charged up, but the weapon itself will never break. And I was like, oh, I have the Hylian shield, but that breaks too. So there was someone afterwards that you can buy more Hylian shields for an exorbitant amount of money, but you can still get those things back, and you can look like Link at the end, using the Master Sword and the Hylian shield, and go like, okay, Ganon, I've got all of my stuff back, and I'm ready to fight you. And now we get into one of my favorite parts about this game: armor dies. When you get to what I consider the second city, it's over on the east part of the map, and you're supposed to go there for like a research lab to like unlock the potential of some of your stuff. And they also give you a camera, which is your last Sheikah ability, which you can use to like take pictures of items and put them into this like bestiary journal, which I kind of like collecting all the stuff for it. It does feel kind of sad that it's like, I have 10,000 rupees, what can I do? Hey, can you fill all of these slots out? Yeah, sure. And it's like just fills all of it out, so you don't need to take pictures of anything but the DLC items. The DLC enemies, like usually it goes like red, blue, black in Zelda. After black, there is silver, and after silver, there's gold. There's only like one really golden enemy, but it's like you still understand that it's a progression of like enemy difficulty based on their color. And if you actually buy all the stuff right there, you still have to take pictures of the silver ones and the golden ones because those ones are rare and from the DLC. So you have this situation where, okay, so you go to the city, and you meet this guy who can dye armor colors, and it's like, hey, all that material stuff that you've been finding, so you could craft food. Yeah, because you could craft food in this game and like make potions out of like an insect and like an animal and like a monster part combined together to make a potion. Or you can take food items together and make a meal that can give you boosts like a resistance to cold, resistance to heat, the ability to run faster, sneaking ability, like all that type of stuff. But you can hold on to a bunch of them, go to him, and go like, here's 5 red items. Turn everything that I'm wearing to red. I was like, okay then. And this comes to really great effect, where it's like, hey, I'm in the Hylian outfit, which is like a really sturdy like traveling cloak with like a hood, a small little cape, and like good sturdy pants. But then it's like you dye different colors, different pieces, and it's like, okay, I've got like a green tunic now, I've got brown pants, and I've got a darker colored hood. I made the hood red. I eventually went to like black or something. I don't know. And I ran around and like I basically turned myself into Link. I was like, there's even like this sturdy soldier set that I kind of wish had a bonus to it. And that's another thing about armor, is that if you're wearing the whole set, sometimes it will have bonuses for you after you have upgraded them. And that goes into another thing. If you find great fairies, kind of like in other games, instead of like giving you health or giving you like upgrades, instead, if you bring again materials to them, they could increase the amount of they can increase the protectiveness of armor and start giving them bonuses. Like for instance, if you get the whole Sheikah set to make you look like Sheik, and then you upgrade them once, now not only do you have a good suit for sneaking around, it also gives you a bonus to running at night. And it's like, well, that's kind of cool. Some of the best sets in the game have really good bonuses, like my favorite one being the Rito Snow Quill set that normally would give you like cold resistance, but once it's upgraded, not only that, you can't freeze solid by enemies. So it's really good for the wintry environment that area is in. And you can see that, like, just talking about certain things leads you down this rabbit hole, which leads to you get a lot of materials in this game. And one thing that has actually caused me to restart the game more than once is selling rarer items. And sure, it's like, oh, I got this diamond. It's like 300. It's like 300 to 500 rupees. I could sell this now. Don't. The reason is because there are items later on in the game that need a large amount of really rare items. Like, you can encounter these dragons after you freed their shrines, and you can, like, pull out your bow and, like, snipe different pieces of them, and pieces of those dragons will fall off, and then you take those and you put them into weapons. So you put them into the armor to upgrade them, or you take their scales and, like, make a food out of them. Apparently you can do that, but I don't actually know what you can necessarily do with it. But, like, and for other things, you hunt animals to, like, get, like, meat and other, like, attributes of monsters, like their claws, their teeth, their horns, even their guts can sometimes, even their internal organs can be used for, like, dyes and upgrading stuff. The soldier armor, like, requires you to grab these different, like, internal organs and, like, rub them onto the armor to, like, make them stronger or something. But the rarer items are from the dragons. They're from stones that you can take hammers and mine stones out of, like, special rocks that you go, like, okay, take the hammer, like, smash it open. It's like, oh, I found a ruby. Oh, I found, like, a bunch of amber and opals. I found flint. What do I do with that? Oh, but even that's important. You could use that to you place it on the ground, you hit it with a metal item, and it creates a spark, and it can light things on fire. Especially for, it's like, throw down a piece of wood from a tree I chopped down, slash a piece of flint right next to it, and I have a campfire. Now you can sit down at it, and you can sleep until day, until the day-night cycle goes back around or something. Or be like, nah, I need to do this at night because these type of creatures only appear at night. So it's like, throw that down, make it night, go throughout your day. And you'll oftentimes, like, find yourself just, like, wandering, doing all these different stuff, that you forget that there are main quests to do. And it's like, it took me roughly around, like, I want to say around 20 hours to actually do one of the first main quests. Because I was so caught up in, like, doing all these stuff, getting all these materials, getting my outfit to look the way I wanted. Oh, now I need to upgrade different pieces, so I gotta farm those. I need to go out there and travel. Once I got the camera, I wanted to take pictures of everything. I wanted to document everything. There was even a time in which, in the same town, Hateno, that's what it was called, with the dye shop, that you can find a house, and you could buy it. But to do that, you have to have 3,000 rupees, I believe it was. 3,000 rupees and a large amount of wooden, of just wood in your inventory. So I just ran to an area that had like a bunch of trees, chopped all them down, gave him the 30 wood, um, 30 wood, bought the house, and then I started dumping items into the house to take pictures of them so I had good backgrounds. Stuff like that is where it's like, I was so distracted with literally everything in the game, I would sometimes forget to actually do quests. And I want to say that's a bad thing, but that's sort of what the game's about, is wandering around, be your own person, do the quest at your own pace. Um, but how about we actually talk about the main missions? So there are 4 dungeons, and I'll go in the order that I did them. First is first you go to the land of the Zora, um, and they tell you, oh, this big elephant is causing rain to come down, making it really dangerous because our dam is about to break, and that'd be really dangerous for people that live south of us. And it's like, okay, so let's take this guy on, but before you do that, you have to get the Zora set. So it's like, here's the chest piece that that the Zora champion made for you, and then you're sort of given hints of like where to get the other pieces of that armor. So I went around, grabbed those pieces of armor, and I went out and got them, and it's like, okay, now I've got the armor set. Go over to the giant elephant, do a little mini game of sorts to like break down its defenses. Go inside, and now you're in a dungeon. One of 5 dungeons in the entire game. 6 now, I think, with the DLC. But these dungeons have multiple puzzles, and the thing that sets them apart is the ability to pull out your Sheikah slate and go like, move this piece of the divine beast so you can go around and do different puzzles by like moving different things around. The elephant has his trunk that like goes up and like moves water to different sections. The bird has a thing where it like moves left and right, so it like moves platforms all over the place. So you like stasis certain items, move it the other way, and get stuck in it. You could then move them to like where they need to go. Like all these type of interesting puzzles. The camel has this rotating this rotating belly inside of it, in which causes different things to like activate through the electricity like going all around it. Salamander, I can't remember that much about the salamander. It was kind of, personally for me, it was kind of mediocre, but every single one of these quests goes the same sort of way. There was a lead up to the actual city that the quest really takes off in. You get there, you're told that you need to take out the divine beast. So you are given the opportunity to get an armor set that is based off of that race. This armor set will protect you when you are doing the mission, and it kind of looks kind of cool too. Again, my favorite one being the Rito one when you go to the bird dungeon. I didn't actually write down any of their names, so I can't actually say what they actually are. But once you're inside, you do a puzzle to unlock different nodes. You go up to where the champion is, and then when you touch that platform, a piece of Ganon comes out that's been controlling the ship. They're using their signature weapon, from the champion, and they're trying to take you out. And usually these are using the element that is kind of focused around the entire thing, where it's like, and usually this coordinates to a different item that you use for them. I didn't find a good one to use on the bird or the salamander, but I'm pretty sure the salamander was bombs. The fish, the alligator, the elephant was ice, was the cryostasis, and the camel was the magnetism. And it's like, you use these different abilities to take out the boss. Make sure that you take a picture of them to add to your bestiary, because you'll never be able to see them again otherwise. And then you have a moment afterwards where it's like, thank you for saving me. Here's my boon. Go off. You get one extra heart container, and now you get this really good ability to use in the open world. After you defeat the elephant, you get the ability to resurrect with 5 hearts. When you die accidentally, when you do the bird, you get the ability to like crouch and like gain a little bit of energy, and then you do a super jump up on a gust of wind to gain heights. After doing the camel, you get this thing where you like charge up your ability, and now like when you unleash it, like a bunch of lightning bolts come down. And after you do the salamander, when you put your shield up, you get you get like a bigger shield around you. So basically your shield defends you like 360 essentially. But all of these abilities have like cooldowns. You do this, but they're useful for traversing your experience, and it makes the final boss a little bit easier to do them. Once you have all of these, they start shooting lasers at the castle to go into it. And each of these significantly weakens the final boss, because if you were to go into the final boss before doing any of them, you would have to fight the bosses from the different dungeons before you can actually fight the final piece of Ganon. And now you actually get to the castle itself, which is the final dungeon. This one you can't really move parts around, but you're running around this area, and you like pull up the map, and it's like, I have no idea where I am, because the entire castle is just a maze of corridors and different ways to get in and out. There's different methods to go up. There's different methods to go down. There's different like secret passages. There's a shrine in the middle of the castle that you can use to teleport to there. If you have the DLC, you could even like put down a teleportation spot to just go back to later, where it's like, okay, I found Zelda's room. I'm gonna put a which is like right next to the final boss. I'm gonna put down a teleportation spot, so the next time that I want to challenge the boss, I could instead of having to run all the way back up, I could do that. You could also use the castle to farm really good items like the Royal Knight set. Not armor, but actual like weapons. So it's like Royal Knight bow with like black steel and like all this type of stuff, where it's like, yeah, this is really good. And they have the royal stuff, which are slightly weaker, but are like gold plated. And like all that. I forgot to talk about mini bosses. So to go over mini bosses really quickly, they're scattered around the world, and they will sometimes take a lot of work to take out. but it's a lot of times worth it, and it's oftentimes because of the rare items that you get from them, whether it's the stone talos, where it's like take the hammer and like whittle down their defenses, hitting the mineable spot on their back, they explode into like a mountain of gems that is like, yeah, I can like grab all these stuff, and it's like, or the Lionels, which are really tough to take out, but they give you some of the highest tier, of armor, upgrading stuff. You need a lot of Lionel cuts. You need a lot of Lionel horns. You need a lot of Lionel hooves, to fully upgrade stuff. And if you're going for that 100%, you're also going to need to grab all of the Korok seeds, all 900 of them. You need to get all the shrines, over 100 of them. I believe it's 100. And then after all that's said and done, you need to go. Get all the shrines. You need to add it to the point where you've upgraded both your stamina and your health so much that you physically can't actually add to them anymore. So you've just got all these orbs just sitting on you, unable to actually upgrade stuff. And then you find one of the last spots. This spot, situated in the northwestern part of the map, is referred to as the Lost Grounds. This is a gauntlet of lasers and automated turrets that try to shoot you. You're either going to need to have precise timing to like parry the shots back at them, because you can actually parry lasers back at Guardians, which is one of the easiest ways to defeat them. Or you can run through them really quickly, get to the end. There's this massive goddess statue. What I would recommend to be the last shrine you go into. The shrine really isn't that hard. You just go in, you get the stuff, you come out. And once all the shrines have been completed, a little box is placed right next to the goddess statue. And you open up, and it's the classic tunic. So it's like, yeah, I've done everything. Put the tunic on, you feel like Link, grab your Master Sword, you grab your Hylian shield, you go up to Ganon. He's this weird amalgamation of like different body parts, and like now he looks like a giant spider almost, as he's just like full beast. He's not really Beast Ganon, he's just Beast. And then you like whittle down his health. You didn't have to do the side quest because you did the dungeons. You do everything. Your Master Sword runs out of energy, so you switch to the Royal Knight set that you have been like farming up all the way up the dungeon. You take him out, and then you go outside to the plains outside the castle. You fight a massive Beast Ganon, and you take him out, and the game's done. And I was like, oh, that's neat. The final boss is a little lackluster, but I won't put it against it, because all of the game is just so fun up to there. It's like, I did so much to get 100% before I completed it. I even got Hestia to give me this massive Korok seed of like, this is my Korok seed. Why does it look like golden poop? Don't worry about it. Either way, you've given me everything. I fully upgraded my inventory slots, so I couldn't give him any more seeds. But he was at least happy that I had all the seeds, and he was. And above that, I had upgraded all of my armor sets. I had dyed them to the colors I wanted. I had completed. I basically just spent the money to complete the bestiary. What is the plant equivalent of bestiary? Herb or berry? Or whatever. I don't even know what that would be. I gotta look that up at some time. The bestiary for plants and plants. Um, so you have all of these things. The finale kind of doesn't feel lackluster because there's so much to do, so much to see. And I didn't even talk about like some of the stuff like I forgot one collectible though. You could find memories of yourself, and you can of like events of like you talking with Zelda, like your Link is just being stoic as he always is. Zelda's kind of talking past him. But once you get all of these, you can go to the place where Link died originally. See how that turned out. You also get a memory for pulling out the Master Sword. You and all these kind of things. And then at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you got like one or two memories. Here's the champion's tunic. You're able to see enemies. You can always see enemy health bars, but now you can see exactly how much health an enemy has. So like, okay, they have 30. They have 130 health. This weapon is doing 27, so that would, and then you like do the math in your head of like how many hits that would be. It's kind of a neat upgrade, but I never used the champion's tunic. I just liked using, the tunics that I could change the color of, and they just don't let you do that one. The one thing out of the entire thing that kind of out of the 4 dungeons that is slightly different is when you're going to the camel boss, the camel dungeon, in which you're going through, and normally it's like, okay, so I go to the town, I get the armor I need to do the boss, I encounter the person that will help me with the boss, go inside. There's a roadblock. Can't go inside the city because the Gerudo are an all-female race that doesn't let you go in because you're male. And it's like, how am I going to do this? Link then walks in cross-dressing as a girl going, okay, I gotta find that armor really quickly. You go down into like this black market area, you get the set, you go to the leader of the Gerudo, tell her your situation. It's like, well, we're not gonna throw you out because you're the legendary person, but just don't let anyone else see you. But you need to do something for us first. I need you to go take out these the Yiga clan that is situated just north of here. And it's like, okay, there's several roadblocks on this one to get to this boss, and that's why I kind of didn't like the camel as much. I think the salamander is a little bit less. I don't want to say impactful, but it's less memorable for me. But it's like you go up to the Yiga clan, and what I did was I put on the full Sheikah set so I can sneak in, which is how you're supposed to do it. It's a stealth mission. I dyed it all black, and I snuck in a little bit to take them out. I get in. There's a boss at the end where you defeat the master of it, which was a really fun boss fight, by the way. And afterwards, like, okay, now we'll take out the camel. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, there was so many hoops I had to go through on this one, but it was fun. Even that part was fun. And when you're inside the city, there's so many things to buy. There's different sets of, there's more sets of armor than anywhere else. Unique sets of armor. You also get these necklaces that you're probably never necklaces and pendants that you're never going to use because, unless you want Link to not have a hat, I guess. But that's kind of neat. I don't know what else to say. I guess to wrap everything up, after meandering about and rambling about all this, Breath of the Wild, did it deserve Game of the Year? For time that it takes to complete, to how much that you're most likely going to spend, absolutely it deserved Game of the Year last year. But there are so many other games that year that were really good as well. I might also do a review for a few of those as well. I got some other games on my board over there of like games that I want to review. What I might do is once I get like some capture card system to stream the game, I will instead play that game and then give my review of that. Just take out the review at the end and like upload it itself, maybe. But either way, this first game, Breath of the Wild, I honestly I give it a gold. It's pretty good. Is it platinum for this year? For me, I would give one other game platinum, but this is a very worthy contender if I never get around to review the other one. So, yeah, that's all I basically wanted to talk about. This was super rambly, and I think I just wanted to put all my thoughts out. I wanted to lay this all down and basically go, hey, these were great. Low points of the game, honestly, it was doing, it was trying to find Lionels. Lionels are very difficult, and they will oftentimes just like, drain your weapons. So you'll oftentimes stock up on like a bunch of like high-powered stuff, take them out, and you'll run out of like and you'll have like maybe like one or two left by the end of it. Especially the golden one from the DLC, or the higher level ones when going up through Hyrule Castle. So I'm like itching my nose a lot. I don't know why. Highest point of the game, the Cass missions. So Cass has these side quests that is like he's sitting there, he's playing his accordion, and he's tells about this legend, and you just kind of read the legend. You're like, okay, what does that mean? And you kind of have to figure out what he's saying, have to figure out the puzzle, and then you get like a bonus from it. Oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, here's like a bonus chest, or here's a shrine. But what it amounts to is all of these happen, and then Cass is able to go home. He's able to see his kids, and feels really nice to like see him have a happy ending at the end of the day. Again, maybe it's because I like birds a little bit, and the Rito area honestly is like probably my favorite part of the entire game. But but overall, like I would honestly say that this game was almost too good. I got the DLC for it, but I mostly got the DLC for two reasons, and it's one, the more enemies, to get the bestiary on, two, the teleportation spot, and three, at the end of the game you have all of these extra shrines just opened up to help you, to give you more stuff, and you have this massive gauntlet. That's another thing. The in the southeast corner of the map, there's this island that when you go to it, it removes all of the stuff that's on you at the on that point, and it makes you go through it on like super hard mode to try to unlock this one shrine. And the DLC gives you an even harder version of it, in which you're slowly going through this massive, like, multi-layer, like, dungeon. A dungeon-like shrine, full of, like, different terrains and different biomes, and you're supposed to find these food, to, like, keep you alive. You're supposed to fight all these really tough enemies with, like, basically nothing more than, like, sticks and the occasional good weapon. And even like the hard difficulty and the incredibly hard difficulty and of the extra like master mode, I think is what it's called, and the ability to like go to your map and look at your path that you traveled around was really fun, and they gave you really cool stuff for the DLC. I never got around to doing some of the DLC stuff, but even if I were to have run around for 100, I ran around for 100 hours not doing anything towards the story, and I was fine with it. I could have said the game was gold, at that point. I didn't need story, I didn't need the big dungeons, I didn't need any of that stuff, but that's mostly because I like open world environments, and I'm a really big fan of, like, Metroidvania games in which you can go about it in your own pace. There's different, like, areas you can go to, and you can, like, skip over certain areas and go about. And this is the first Zelda game in which they just let you play, instead of just, like, rushing you down a corridor. And sometimes too much linearity is bad, and sometimes too little story cohesion is really bad. And I honestly feel like Breath of the Wild is a gold. I would recommend it. I would say that if you have a Switch, or even if you still have a Wii U out there, you should probably get your hands on it. And so that's my review. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave comments and your own opinions. I always like hearing other people's point of views. Check out my other videos. Come onto my live streams if you want. And that's basically it. This is AG signing out.